afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you for being here and welcome to the Black Health Trust weekly program. Happy Love Day. It's Valentine's Day across the world, so happy Love Day. We're so pleased you've chosen to empower yourselves today by joining us. It's great to have all of our regular attendees back and those new to the program. My name is Michelle and I'm your hostess for today. I hope you're all doing well from wherever you're joining us. Today, our panel will be moderated by Dr. Nabert Stevens and Dr. Ivan Walks. Barbara Nabert Stevens, I'm sorry, and Dr. Ivan Walks. Black Health Trust was founded in response to the global pandemic, and Dr. Randall Maxey, who happens to be founder of Black Health Trust and president and chief medical officer of Advanced Community Medical Care Corporation in Los Angeles. It was founded out of his desire to keep his own family safe, and fortunate for us, his commitment evolved into a much larger vision. The purpose and mission of the Black Health Trust is to provide credible insights from our community health experts to best serve our communities of color with a coalition of leading and longstanding Black medical professionals across a diverse spectrum of disciplines to offer unvarnished opinions and insights into our physical and mental health during these very challenging times. These opinions are offered to help educate and inspire you to take your health seriously and to ask questions of your own medical practitioners. Now I'll share a few housekeeping items and announcements. This video conference is live and is being recorded on different public platforms like Facebook Live and YouTube. Your participation on the program is completely voluntary, and since you're here and participating, if you prefer not to have your image and likeness displayed, there are visual and audio settings on your personal device that you can use to block your picture and mute your voice. That said, all participants will be muted by our Zoom technician. With regards to the chat room and questions, if you have questions, and we hope you do, you can enter them into the chat room. But please limit your questions to 2 questions per topic being addressed at a time. And please do not use this forum to advertise or promote your personal products. We will get to as many questions as we can, but understand that we only have a certain amount of time to do that. So thank you for understanding. I'll now read our disclaimer. Please note that the information communicated on this program is not intended or deemed to be medical or legal advice, and you should always consult your own medical or legal professional for advice and direction pertaining to your particular situation and needs. The information presented here is not advice, but rather opinions and recommendations from credible sources. Black Health Trust, its representatives, members, employees, attendees, heirs, assigns, and guest speakers and presenters assume no liability whatsoever in connection with the information presented or used by anyone, nor are these discussions directed to specific situations. Again, we strongly encourage all attendees of the program to consult their own legal or medical professional for conclusive guidance on how to proceed in your own personal circumstances. So that said, we are in this together. If this program is and has been valuable and interesting to you, please visit the website to learn more about our programming and how you can support Black Health Trust so we can continue bringing our community outstanding content. Visit www.blackhealthtrust.org. That's blackhealthtrust.org. And now we'd like to thank the Black Health Trust Steering Committee, the Executive Board, our virtual administrative assistant, our production and Zoom technician, BHT supporters, and all the people behind the scenes for their time and efforts that make this program possible. Let's now welcome all of our distinguished physicians and special guests today. We thank you for sharing your valuable time, information, and educated insights. Your participation and support help to empower our communities of color, and this is a critical time for our present and future well-being as a people. Black is beautiful and knowledge is power, so thank you so much. Welcome again, everyone, to the Black Health Trust weekly program. This is our community, and this is our time to take care of our health. Grab your coffee, tea, get comfortable, lean in, and Dr. Nabert Stevens and Dr. Walks, please do us the honor of moderating today's program.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and welcome everyone to our February 14th program. Our subject today is Black love, and we are so excited to present our speakers today and hear the message that each of them have to share with us. But before we go to that, let us review the weekly and yearly statistics. Simon, could I have that first slide? As is our custom, we like to review the statistics each week, and this data comes from the CDC tracker, and it is accurate, up through 8 p.m. last night. As of then, there were a total of 27,229,862 cases in the US. In the day, the 24 hours ending at 8 o'clock last night, there were a total of 102,004 new cases in the United States. There were a total of 473,699 deaths as of 8 o'clock last night. And the total daily deaths for the day yesterday ending at 8 was 3,589. Unfortunately, the numbers keep ticking upward, and we have many more miles to go before we get this conquered. With that, though, I'd like to present my co-moderator and the producer of today's program. He is no stranger to you. He is none other than Dr. Ivan Walks. Dr. Walks is a psychiatrist, a practicing psychiatrist, and the former District of Columbia Chief Health Officer. He is the founder and CEO of the Ivan Walks Group and Associates, a healthcare consultancy firm. He has an awesome background, having served under the Clinton administration, the CDC, and numerous other professional organizations. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Walks.
Thank you, Dr. Neighbor-Stevens, and thank you for making that introduction short. I appreciate that. It's this is a great day. This is a day that we can get beyond something. You know how you look things up because you want to figure out exactly what they mean? We decided to do today on Black love. I said, well, let me look up what love means in the dictionary. I was disappointed. The dictionary tells me that love is an intense feeling of deep affection. I said, that's all it is? I said, well, let me look a little further. It said, more than liking. So an intense feeling of deep affection that is more than liking. That's all I got. So with that, I said, you know what? There's got to be more to it than that. And there is so much about love that impacts us every day, from the I love you that we give to and get from our family members, to the one we give and we get to from that special person, to the I love you that we give and we get from the Lord. So I think having some people go a little bit beyond the dictionary definition and help us understand, what does it mean when we talk about love? What does it mean when we talk about Black love? And how do we talk about Black love? I know we doctor people, we talk about it medically, we talk about it scientifically. I know that when I go to church, the pastor talks about it spiritually as well as personally. And then I know for me personally, as somebody who was growing up listening to music back in the late 60s and early 70s, if you don't have the right love song, it's just not going to work. Period. End of story. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to explore the different aspects of Black love. We've got great people to help us do that. And I'm going to ask Dr. Neighbor-Stevens to introduce my new friend, Dr. Brittany Jones, who is going to help get us started.
Thank you, Dr. Walks. And it is certainly my pleasure to present to our audience Dr. Brittany Jones. Dr. Brittany Jones, let me first say, is a graduate of FAMU.
Absolutely.
Okay, now that we've taken care of the official business, she is a graduate of the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, and she is about to launch a new phase in her career as vice chair of the psychiatry department at Crozier Health in Upland, Pennsylvania. She formerly was the department chair at the Christiana Care Union Hospital. And we are very happy to have this very well-trained neuropsychiatrist, to chat with us on the topic of Black love.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. You guys make me sound so fancy. I like that. Dr. Walks, it's very interesting. When I started kind of looking into putting together a presentation about Black love, I also kind of went the scientific route, looking at the definitions and even looking at it from a scientific method. And when I would look up, they would talk about release of hormones like oxytocin and dopamine. And I thought, I mean, that's interesting, I guess, maybe from a medical standpoint. But I thought that, especially working with mental health, that we could kind of think about it more of like a societal. Talk about the different kinds of loves, healthy love in relationships, healthy love as an individual, the importance of self-love, and how that kind of really affects your ability to have healthy relationships. So I just want to start off with, it's going to be okay. The last year has been extremely difficult for everyone, whether you're single or you're in a couple. Some of my friends who are actually in relationships are jealous that I'm single and I get to be in the house by myself. And a lot of my single friends are saying things like, I'm so lonely, I wish I had a husband or a partner, even if I didn't like him, just to have somebody else around. And so it's not going to always be like this. Time heals everything. So eventually we are going to move past this stage of quarantining and outside will open back up. So it's going to be okay. All right. So for couples and singles, it's been very difficult kind of maintaining any sort of relationship. You're not able to go out. You're not able to do your normal routines. And for some people, it really has suffered. And so I just wanted to talk to everybody about the different types of love. So I read an article on Psychological Times that came out a couple years ago, and it identified 7 types of love. So the first one we're going to talk about is eros, or erotic love. That's the love that you have with your partner. That kind of describes intimacy. The second kind of love is called philolove. It's more about your friendships. With friendships, it's based on dependability, consistency, trust. The third kind of love is called, I'll make sure I pronounce this correctly. I got a little Jersey, Tallahassee accent going on. It's called strage. It's familial love. That sort of love is consistent. If you have a good relationship with your family members or a bad relationship with your family members, the love itself actually doesn't change. Even if your interactions with them do, you love your family member, your mom, your dad, your siblings, regardless of their personality or character. Like I said, it may affect how you interact with them, but the love stays the same. So it's a very consistent love. And it's not necessarily based off of what you get out of the relationship. It's just a love that is there and present. The fourth type of love is agape love. It is a love for humanity. It's more of described as like a spiritual love. When you love your fellow man and your fellow neighbor, it actually promotes a healthier, much more productive society. I'm not necessarily interested in getting things out of it, but helping you makes me feel good. We are lacking a little bit of that in society right now. The fifth kind of love is called ludus love. This love is, I guess, more for our, sorry, you guys, move my camera. I can't even say it's younger generation. It is the uncommitted, non-committal, no questions asked kind of love. This is the Netflix and chill love that all the young people kind of talk about. When I was reading up on it, one of the things that stood out I thought was kind of funny was that they called it uncomplicated love. In my experience and my friend's experience, I've never quite known this to be uncomplicated. It's always been kind of a sticky situation. However, it is a form of love. Just depending on the type of person you are, what your belief systems, what your moral systems is, it can be a very fulfilling love for some people. But in my experience, it really only works when you're mature and independent. And if you've tried it once or twice and it doesn't work for you, sometimes you're just not quite ready for that kind of love. Pragma love. Pragma love is what you see with people who have long-term relationships. They always say the passion dies out, but I don't necessarily believe that passion dies out. I just think that sometimes people forget that they still really do have that intimate, passionate love for each other. However, this love is more based off of shared experiences and shared goals. We're going to be together. We're going to do this as a team. I'm going to make sure that we all win in the end. And then the last love that I want to spend a little bit of time on is called, I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's Philatia love. It's about self-love. Back in the Greek days, it was called like the hubris. So it was what they described as a selfish love. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm not going to look out for anyone else. However, it is kind of morphed and changed into self-love, self-esteem, self-confidence. In all these different types of love, it is extremely important for you to love yourself and to be confident in yourself and to have self-esteem. When I was looking at this, the article talked about there being a difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. I think that, especially as professionals, but I think anyone, when you're good at your job and you're good at what you do, you have confidence in your ability to do your work. But that is confidence in your abilities, not necessarily confidence in self. I can give you like a good example. If you look at movie stars or very successful people, they're really good in their careers and then they doubt themselves in other areas of their life, right? And so that's why you see a lot of depression, sadness, and anxiety in people who are high achieving, because what they do have is self-confidence, but not necessarily self-esteem. Self-esteem has to do more with your internal dialogue, how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself, how you tell yourself your value, and how you enforce your value. It has to do with how you feel about yourself, and then how yourself kind of interacts with the community as a whole. In my experience, if you don't have a strong basis in self-esteem, self-love, and self-confidence, it can affect all of the other previous 6 loves that we discussed. If you don't love yourself and you're waiting for your partner or your future partner to be the one that pours into you and builds you up, and God forbid that doesn't happen, you've spent a whole life waiting to find someone that's going to heal you. It's also, on the other side, a lot of responsibility. To be someone's everything is I'm not going to say it's exhausting, but I'm going to say it's a lot of responsibility, and it can affect so many other aspects of your life. And so it's important that for all my single people out there to take this time to really enjoy your life. I have a lot of friends who say, you know, Brittany, I look at your life. It looks like it's so much fun. You get up if you don't feel like making breakfast and you want a Three Musketeer for breakfast, it's okay. You put something down, it's right there. If you don't feel like doing laundry today, that's okay. And I do kind of enjoy my life, but I also look to my other friends and say, you know what, I would be willing to give up having Three Musketeers for breakfast in order to have like a partner to wake up with. And I said, however, I still do thoroughly enjoy being single. And so for all my single people out there, don't be overwhelmed. Don't get depressed. Don't get desperate. Make sure that you enjoy the time that you have with yourself, because there's going to be a time in the future where you're going to be like, man, I really wished I had took some time and grounded in that moment when I was eating Three Musketeers for breakfast. And when I didn't have to worry about everybody else, and I really kind of had to just take care of myself. Does anyone have any questions so far?
So far,
No questions so far?
Yeah, I don't see any in the chat box yet.
Okay. So we talked about that. I'm just going through my little list. So one thing.
I just had a comment, Dr. Jones.
Okay.
I think it's just very important that you spent that time focusing on self-love and on the self-esteem issue, because we tend to, when we meet people, we meet that part you talked about, which is the self-confidence part. We meet them when they're doing something that they're good at, and we meet that nice face that they want to present, and we don't know about the other part that they may be challenged by. So I just really appreciate you bringing that part of it out, because it often explains why what we think we're getting in a relationship is not really what we wind up with, right?
Oh, yes. So I always try to tell people, really wait about 6 months, if you can wait for like a year, but really wait 6 months when you're dating someone to really kind of get enmeshed in it, only because you're meeting your best representative, right? First 6 months, I'm shaving my legs, putting on my eyebrows, right? I'm putting on clothes. You probably have seen me in my contact lenses. You maybe only see my glasses once or twice. Even when I'm frustrated with you, I'm going to be very positive about it. Like, oh, sweetie, that was so nice. I'm so glad that you came and picked me up 45 minutes late. Ha ha ha. But that's okay. Sometimes just give me another call and let me know that you're running late. So you're always your best version of yourself very early on. Self-esteem and self-love is something that I talk about a lot. My primary job is inpatient psych. I absolutely love working on an inpatient psychiatric unit, helping people in crisis. And remembering to be a human being while you're at it is really important, especially when you're a professional. A lot of people who are struggling, they look at you and they're like, well, you have nothing to complain about. You don't understand. Life is easy for you. And when you approach them as a human being, like, listen, one of the first things I say is like, listen, I know you're going through something rough. This is a place of issues. No shame or guilt about being on an inpatient psychiatric unit. We all have issues up here, and this is where we all come to work on our issues. That's usually how I kind of start the very beginning of the psychiatric evaluation, so they know that I'm not perfect either. Don't get fooled by the sweater sets. I have made mistakes in life too. And so for my people who are single right now, it's important to be okay with being single. It's important to enjoy your journey. It's the journey that's the part where you find joy and happiness. It's not always the destination. If you lock everything into your goals, your checklist of life, like, okay, house, partner, baby, blah, 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 and just going down your list, then joy is going to be in the completion of the list. And if you don't quite complete your list, you're going to feel like you haven't necessarily achieved your goals. And that's not the case. Goals change as time goes on. I had different goals when I was 21, what I was going to be like at 40, different goals for myself at 30, what I was like going to be on 40. At 40, I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of getting on my feet. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And that's okay. It is about the journey. And so I want my single people out there to find joy in being single, and do your best not to get, I'm trying to think of the positive word for desperate.
There is no positive word.
There is no positive word for desperate. Okay. It's important to not get desperate, because when you get desperate, then you start making compromises, and compromises that might not lead you to joy in the future. So say, for example, if you're in your late 30s or 40s and you're waiting for the right one to come along and you're starting to worry that you may not be able to have a child. There are so many ways to have children: adopting children, fostering children. There's medical intervention that you can have your child, because I want you to think about, I don't want you to make a compromise and marry or be with somebody that you know is not a good match because you're worried about your fertility. We're in an age where you can have children and have that part of your life, so that window doesn't pass for you while you wait for your right partner to come along. Dating is possible in quarantine. There's a lot of people meeting on internet, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid, Christian Mingle. Actually, it's the perfect time to do it because everybody's downloaded Zoom and Skype and all that to their phones. You can kind of get a chance to meet each other in a safe environment. We're getting to the point where you can get COVID tests now. You can go on social distancing dates. And I'm hoping that by June that the COVID vaccination will be available to everyone. And then it would be safer continuing wearing your mask and washing your hands and social distancing. But it would be easier and safer to actually start meeting people in person. But I do know people who have met online and those social distance dated, and things have worked out and they made them part of their safety bubble, right? So it can happen. It is possible. Any questions at this point?
There's just one in there. It looks like,
Okay.
How can one improve patience? And I assume that's with regard to being single.
So the most important thing when it comes to patience is to think about what you're really looking for in life. If you're looking for companionship, right? There are ways to find companionship that are not necessarily always your partner, right? Um, Making sure that you're still spending time with your friends, making sure that you're actually putting yourself out there to date. You know, if you're a professional person and if you're a little bit, I call myself medium young. If you're in your medium young years, when you first started dating, most of your interactions were face to face through your friends. But times have changed. It's more about internet dating and meeting people through forums like this. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear stop you from anything. You know, one of the things that have always kind of helped me in life is that it's not like I'm more intelligent than anyone else. It's not like I'm more confident than anyone else. It's not like I'm in there like Doctor Strange in the Last Avenger movie and I can predict all outcomes so I know how things are going to happen. The one thing that's my strength is that I'm fearless, right? And nobody's ever going to tell me that I can't do something that I put my mind to. So I'm going to keep pushing. And so I want you, even though I want you to make sure you put yourself out there. Zoom meetings, you can just go on there, meet them. If you don't like them, you can just block them. And sometimes it's a numbers game. You just got to get out there and meet people. And eventually, the law of statistics, somebody is going to pop up and it's going to actually be a fit for you. So say a deep prayer, take a cleansing breath. Even when you're afraid, do it. Because you're not going to let fear stop you.
So
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones, I had a question.
Mhm.
So often we feel unprepared for whatever is in front of us. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about this notion that you don't have to do it by yourself, that there are people like you who are psychiatrists, there are psychologists, there are other people who can help us. We feel like we're supposed to just drop onto the planet with all the tools that we need. Is that true?
That is not true at all. Therapy is a friend. Therapy makes everyone's lives better, right? Even if you feel like you don't have any major issues, that's okay. You can still get a therapist and you can work through things. It just makes life better. Your family, your friends, you know, even me. I have multiple colleagues. Some of them are family therapists. Some of them are social workers. And they are very supportive. I have friends that I grew up with that I've known since I was 9 or 10. I just spent the weekend with one of them. It's really important to know that you're never alone, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask your friends for help. Ask your family for help. You know, alone is just a state of mind. No one's ever really alone. And if you're alone, you get a therapist who will help you realize that you're not alone.
You know, I'd like to follow up on the therapist thought, because I will tell you that in my work, I struggle to identify therapists, counselors, and the resources that my patient population need. And I worry that in this time of increased need and decreased resources in terms of people to provide the service, that opens us up to some vulnerability to people who really are not about our best interest. So I was wondering if you might give just a couple of comments regarding when you do reach out for help, what to look for and what to be on guard for.
Okay. This is what to look for. First of all, when you're finding a therapist or a mental health provider, it's important to feel like you can be honest with yourself, even the parts about yourself that you don't like, right? Because we all have things that we're a little bit ashamed of, or things that we don't necessarily always want everybody to know. If you have a therapist, there's a difference between being not ready to tell someone and then not trusting them. If you don't trust your therapists with your deep, dark secrets, then it's time to go to another therapist. That is different from I'm not ready to divulge this painful trauma or this issue that I'm dealing with. So if you feel like you cannot tell them and you don't trust them, then you go to another one. And I'm okay with you going and looking and finding another one until you find one that fits for you. When you're looking for a therapist, you're looking for one that's going to be consistent, that's going to make their appointments And that is validating, right? It's important to feel validated by your therapist. One of the things that when I'm working with people and they're asking me my opinion, I always tell people to remember that all feelings are valid, because you can't tell someone that they're not upset. Now, the logic behind it may be a little faulty, but the feeling is still valid. And if you don't feel as though your therapist is validating your feelings, then it's time to find another one. Also, if you're looking for someone that may understand you more culturally, believe it or not, Facebook, they have so many organizations for Black therapists, for Hispanic therapists, for Asian Pacific Island therapists, that you can join the group, literally post, hi, anonymously, I'm looking for a therapist that takes this insurance in this area, and you may get some hits. If not, always, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead and finish your thought. I was going to share another question in the chat.
Okay, if not, always call your insurance company.
Yes. While this is from the chat, while those are searching for love, can you discuss the different forms that love can take and the journey that singles must explore on the way to finding it?
Okay. So I can give you, so one of the things that I look for were signs of, or characteristics of a healthy relationship. So one of the characteristics for a healthy relationship, when you do find your partner, is that when you notice that your partner genuinely enjoys your success or your happiness, right? So when they see you smile, their eyes light up. When you reach a goal or a milestone, they're just as happy, if not even more excited for you. That's something very important in a partner. Interest in your partner's thoughts and feelings. Like, I'm actually interested in what you think about the new episode of Power 2. Do you believe that Ghost is really the villain, or is he whatever? I'm thinking about, this job change. What do you think would be a benefit? What do you think? Could this be a fit? Would this not be a fit? Like, genuinely being interested in your partner's thoughts and feelings are important. In healthy relationships, their people's individuality remains. So they still go out and hang out with their friends. They still do the things that they're interested in. Yet they take interest in their partner's interests. So I'll give you an example. Hypothetically speaking, I like country line dancing and my partner hated it, right? I would still go and do country line dancing even if my partner didn't. And he would occasionally come with me to support me in something that he knows that I love. In return, this is real, I really like watching sporting events in person. I cannot sit in front of a TV on Sunday and watch football for hours. However, as a good partner, I would be willing to fall asleep next to you on the couch. And when you scream because your team scored a goal, I would wake up, scream yes, and then probably fall right back asleep, right? So that's me being supportive and taking interest in my partner's joys. Another one is loving honesty. We talk about being brutally honest. People who are brutally honest, they're not really interested in really telling you the truth. They're interested in letting you know their thoughts and feelings, even if it completely destroys and breaks you down, right? Loving honesty is about being honest to help people achieve a goal, right? If I'm struggling with something and I can't see this flaw in front of me, and my partner is telling me lovingly in a positive way that actually produces results with your honesty, that is how you tell someone, that's how you present loving honesty. It's not like, no, when you were wrong, you did this and that. It's more of, well, I've noticed that this happened before. Have you ever taken it from a perspective or thought it from this view that maybe this is how they're seeing it? I wonder if you even noticed that you're doing it. It's okay, I still love you, but I want to be there and support you so that you don't keep ending up in this particular situation because I know it hurts you. That's kind of a form of loving honesty. And the last one is about value for each other as individuals, and then value for each other as a couple. When you do meet someone, because you will meet someone, that it's important for you to be okay with who they are as an individual, and that you guys have shared goals as a couple. Each couple can state the rules of their relationship, because not every relationship is the same, right? Especially as time goes on, there is some people are monogamous, some people are polyamorous. I believe in love of all kinds, right? I want people to feel valued and see each other as individuals and be recognized as individuals. And so if your relationship has most of these qualities, even the different types of love, no relationship is just one type of love. You know, some of the most fulfilling relationships I had friendship as the primary thing. And so making sure that it's well-rounded, that it's well-supportive, and that you feel good about it the majority of the time, because there's always going to be ups and downs in every relationship, but it shouldn't be down 80% of the time. That it's gonna be okay, and you'll eventually find love. And if you keep yourself and your love of self, then if you love yourself well, you can love your partner well.
So Dr. Jones, I thank you so much. That is very instructive. It's clear. It's easy to understand, and you give psychiatrists a good name. Thank you for that.
Oh.
We do have some other questions in the chat. We actually have a few more, but we do have to move on. Maybe we'll come back and talk about this again, because there's a lot of interest and folks really have a lot of questions. I think what you did that was very, very helpful, in addition to all the information, is that you told people they don't have to figure this out by themselves. And I think that's huge, that folks understand that there are therapists, there are places to go. One of them is many churches have counseling centers as a part of their church, and so there is that potential to move in that direction. So, Dr. Neighbor-Stevens, would you mind introducing Reverend Peace to take us to a little bit different perspective on things?
Oh, it would certainly be my pleasure to introduce our next guest. Our next panelist is Reverend Dwight O. Peace. Reverend Peace is a retired veteran after 22 years of active duty service in the United States Air Force. It was after his retirement from the Air Force that he pursued his formal theological training at San Francisco Theological Seminary, where he received his master's degree in divinity. Now, Reverend Peace has been extremely busy since he finished his formal studies. He has blended his God-given gifts with his military experience and his theological training, along with his passion for God's people, to be a vessel for social, economic, and spiritual change in the lives of others. Among other things, Reverend Peace co-founded and is former chairman of the Inland Valley Faith Consortium of Pomona, California, a community development corporation to make communities whole by providing initiatives through collaborative efforts with educational institutions, service or agencies, local businesses, faith-based organizations, and other community and civic entities. I was particularly struck by this because those of you who are regulars in our audience know that we have heard from two different additional panelists that have shared with us what they have been able to achieve through their collaborative efforts in the community with different agencies, organizations, and groups. Finally, he has many professional connections, as you would probably guess, with someone with his background. But I want to share with you the last thing that he shared with us in his biography, because it is so appropriate. Reverend Peace has been married to the love of his life, Cecile, for almost 29 years. 30 years ago today, they first met in Redland, California, which makes today their 30th year of celebrating Valentine's Day as a couple. With that, I give you Reverend Peace.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And it certainly is an honor and a pleasure to be here today. I count it a privilege to be here to share just a little bit of what I know with regards to love and spirituality. And you know, my wife and I, we have been together for 30 years, married for almost 29 years. But for 16 years, there has been one thing that we have never agreed on, and we just can't seem to find a way to agree on this. And the thing that we can't agree on is whether we met in a club or whether we met in a restaurant. So if somebody can help us with that, I'd really appreciate it. The point is, when I went to this particular place, it was a restaurant. But by the time she came in, it was a club. So the first time I told the story while in the pulpit, she wanted to know who I was talking about. But that is one of the things that we have laughed about over the years, and it has certainly strengthened our love, and something that we can laugh about and disagree on and still laugh about it. So what I like to do is I like to share my screen here as we get into this subject of talking about love and spirituality. And where is my, okay. Not it.
There we go.
Nope, that's not it. Here we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, there we go. So this is what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about love and spirituality. And I first of all want to thank Dr. Jones for her presentation. I truly enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I want to thank you for explaining the different types of love, because my
Please, excuse
yes.
me. I hate to interrupt, but we're not seeing what I think you think we're seeing.
Okay, you're not. Oh,
Simon,
wait a minute. Let me try it again. I'm gonna have to get my tech person in here to show me.
we all have those, don't we?
Yeah. Okay,
feel-
let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, you can see now. Okay, all right. My wife was coming in here. She's my tech person. Now can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. I tell you, my wife teaches me everything about Zoom. She's a teacher and she knows Zoom upside and downside. So as I was saying, thank you, Dr. Jones, for explaining the different types of love, because I'll only really be concerned with one type of love today. It's that love that truly God talks about, and the love that comes from God. It is the love that is actually the basis for all other kinds of love. The other 6 that you talked about, it is the love that is a basis for all of those types of love. And as a matter of fact, at my particular church, they call me the love pastor. And that's because my platform is based on love, and nothing else is based on the love of God and the love of others. Because I feel as though when we truly love in the way that God has instructed us to love, then we become empowered vessels in the building of God's kingdom, that we help others' lives to become better when we practice the kind of love that God has called us to practice. While you might say, Dr. Jones, your strength is fearless, being fearless, I like to say my strength is in loving. And so with that being said, one of the things I want to point out here is that we all know that we live in a diverse world. There's diversity in race, there's diversity in religion, in skin tone, in gender preference. There are many diversities, and I could go on and on and on. And as human beings, we tend to look for commonalities in one another. We look for the sameness in the things that we are to one another. We look for the sameness in where are you from? Are you from the same place I am? We look for the sameness in our favorite sports teams. We look for commonalities in our professions, and we have a lot of commonalities on this call here. And I could go on and on and on. And we look for commonalities in our religion and in our faith. And while we might have many differences, there is one thing as human beings, as creatures of the Creator, of God, a higher power. There is one thing that we have in common, and that is love. Let me take it one step further. The Creator, God, a higher power, is the source of love, and we are endowed with this same love. The same love which comes from the Creator, God, a higher power. So what I want to point out here in this particular slide is this. I have actually put up 4 different types of faiths. And this is just a microcosm of all the different types of religions and faith that we have in our world. But the thing that what I wanted to point out is this. As you read through this, you will find that love is the foundation of our spirituality. Our spirituality begins with love, and it ends with love as well. Our spirituality begins as love being the foundation of it. It's from hope, faith, joy, forgiveness, all these things that are wrapped into our spirituality. It's because love is in action. It's because love is in play. And the reason why love is the foundation of our spirituality is because love does not depend on need. It doesn't go out searching for need. Love is not dependent on desire. And you don't need a connection for love. Love simply is. Love simply is what it is. And that is a gift from God. And because it is the foundation, because love is the foundation of spirituality, you cannot separate love from spirituality. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever tried to separate wet from water? You can't do it. Have you ever tried to separate cold from ice? You can't do it. And the same thing goes with love and spirituality. You cannot separate the two, because to have spirituality, you must have love. You're all familiar with the greatest commandment. The greatest commandment where Jesus instructed us on love. Jesus was asked by a group of folks who weren't showing Jesus a lot of love at the time. As a matter of fact, they were doing just the opposite of what love is. And they asked Jesus, said, Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus said, love. Love your God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So Jesus is replying that this is the greatest commandment. And so when we hear that this is the greatest commandment, Jesus is telling us that love is simply a very important part of our lives. Love is that part of our lives that helps us to live in community, that part of our lives that helps us to live in harmony. Love empowers us. It empowers us through our failures. It empowers us through our difficulties. It empowers us in our relationships. It makes our relationships much better, as Dr. Jones was saying. It makes our relationships stronger, lasting through the difficult times. And love empowers us to help us to take care of ourselves. And as Dr. Jones has already said, it's important that we love ourselves. Because if we don't love ourselves, how can we truly love someone else? If we don't love ourselves, how can we truly say we love God? Because to love ourselves means to take care of ourselves, to take care of our mind, body, and soul. It means to do those things that helps us to live a more quality life. But this is the love that I want to talk about right now. It's the love that Jesus was talking about when he shared this with the Pharisees, those people who weren't giving him a whole lot of love at the time. I want to talk about agape love. Dr. Jones, she briefly talked about agape love. Agape love is that unconditional love. It's that love that persists in any circumstance. It's that love that helps you to forgive when someone has done you wrong. It is that love that connects us to one another through God. It is the highest form of love. It's that love that they call charity love, where we give without any expectation of receiving back. It's that love that causes us to do the things that people might even say or question our mentality about. We love when people expect us, and you shouldn't be doing that, but we love because God has called us to love. It's not the love that Dr. Jones was talking about before, but it's the love that helps us to have a strong community. I grew up in a little known town of North Carolina called Durham. And I grew up at a time when our community was Black. It was African American. We didn't have any whites living in our community. They lived on the outskirts. But there was one thing about our community. One thing about our community that caused our community to thrive. I had about 40 mothers in that community. I had about 40 fathers in that community, and had about 200 or so cousins. But the point I'm trying to make here, the community thrived because of love. No one went without. If someone had something that someone else needed, we gave or we received. It was a community full of love. And it's unfortunate today that we have lost that in so many of our communities. We have lost that kind of love where people will do for another without expecting anything in return. But this is the kind of love that has helped our community. And when I say helped our community, the Black community to transcend from the point of slavery all the way to where we are now. And because there is such an embodiment in the understanding of agape love in our community, this is the platform that got us through the civil rights movement. This is the platform that Martin Luther King Jr. used to get us through the civil rights movement. Imagine this, imagine this. If our platform was anything but love, how do you think that would have gone for us? But when God is in the midst of it, when the love that we share with one another truly comes from God, and God empowers us through that love, there is nothing that we cannot do. Nothing that we cannot do. So spirituality, which has come from love, has been a very important aspect of the Black community. It has helped us to achieve. It has helped us to overcome. We shall overcome. It has helped us to move beyond Jim Crowism and all the things that we had to deal with as a community. And through that, we were successful and we fostered a community that is still strong today. So agape love is that love that persists, it transcends no matter what the circumstances are. It's the love that God has put in each and every one of us. It's that peace that has been embedded in all human beings, no matter what you believe, whether it's Islam, whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism or Christianity, whatever you believe, as human beings, we have that highest form of love, which is called agape love. I want to end with this. In the writings and the words of Martin Luther King, his platform, as I said, was based on love. And we know that when love is absent, we know that there is hatred. Hatred is the antithesis of love. It is the exact opposite of love. And as Martin Luther King said, hatred paralyzes life, but love releases it. Love releases it so that life can rise to higher heights, so that life can connect with our Creator, God. Hatred confuses life, where love harmonizes life, where we can live in harmony together. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates life. It makes it bright. So, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have decided to stick with love because hate is certainly too great a burden to bear. Agape love, the love that transcends all things, the highest form of love, and the love from which all other loves have come from. So I'd like to open for any questions at this time.
Reverend Peace, thank you. Thank you very much for that. That's, it's interesting. I'm trying to put the last two presentations together, and it's amazing how they fit so nicely. Um, you can't give what you don't have. Love is such an important thing for us to have, and Dr. Jones let us know that we don't have to try to find it by ourselves. That we can get help to find it. And Reverend Peace, it sounds like it's a pretty basic thing for us to strive toward. So I want to thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments in the, before I ask that question, Reverend Peace, at the very beginning, when everybody but me thought you had the wrong screen on, you were showing someone who was handing out some food.
Yes.
And I said, oh, this must be part of his presentation because that's love is an action word. Love is
You,
somebody asked earlier, was love a noun? Was love a noun or a verb? And the answer is yes. It
well,
depends on what you're doing and how you're using it. So I I didn't know you didn't have the right thing up on the screen. I thought handing out food a pretty good demonstration of love. So Dr. Neighbor Stevens, if we don't have any other questions, can you introduce our next person?
Dr. Neighbor Stevens, you're on mute. We're gonna have to get you unmuted. There we are.
Great. Yes, I actually was texted a question that I thought was something that we want to address, and I would like to invite both of our speakers so far, Dr. Jones and Reverend Pence, to respond to this question. In this time of living the way that we're having to live, both in our homes, many of us are working from home, so we're spending a lot of time at home with those people in our homes. Would both of you address the situation where we may not, in fact, be very happy with those people that we're living with? And given the times that we're in, help us to understand how we can better cope with and manage a situation where we have issues with those that we're living with.
Oh. Reverend Peace, would you like to go first?
sure I will. Sure I will. You know, sometimes it's not easy living with some people, and it's hard to find that love for them. But the kind of love that we're talking about here, the agape love, as I said, is a love that persists no matter what the circumstances are. I think that if you're living with a person whom you can't get, you're having problems with, there's a reason why you're having those problems. And I think the solution to any problem that we are having is communication. And so I think it starts with communicating with that person and and figuring out what it is, you know, why you're having the problem, and working through some solutions, whatever it might be, to resolve whatever issues you're having. And along what goes along with that, that can never ever be excluded from anything that you're doing, has to be prayer. You have to pray for that, for the problem that you're having, and ask that God would lead you both into a solution where whatever it is that's going on, that you can at least have a living arrangement that is conducive to one another.
Dr. Jones?
All right. I think that is a wonderful way to kind of deal with the struggles. The quarantine and being in the house is amplifying everything. It's amplifying love and frustration. For me, if you're asking me from a psychiatrist standpoint, to me, it depends on if there were problems before the quarantine, and being in the house together is just amplifying things. If that's the case, then you really should have a conversation beginning from love, because if you're with someone, it was at least a period of time where you loved each other. Talking to your partner and kind of acknowledging that there are some frustration and it's difficult. If it's getting to the point where you're struggling and you're thinking that the relationship may not work out, I am always a proponent of couples counseling. But if I were going to do couples counseling, everybody would have to be in their own individual counseling. Because you have to work on yourself in order to work on your relationship. And so right now, actually, it's kind of, believe it or not, the quarantine is it's very difficult even for me. You should have seen me. My entire balcony looked like a safari because I went to the gardening shop like every single day because I had to do something. But in order for, you have to, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. When you're struggling in your relationship, it is important to be honest and actually state what the actual issue is. And not from a point of tearing your partner down, but a point of, you know, I love you. I want this to work out. This is an issue. This has been an issue. Maybe we were able to kind of deal with it because I was out with my friends. I was doing my own thing. I was getting what I was lacking from an outside resource. But now that we are in this situation, I am a little bit more, I'm struggling more. I'm a little bit more lonely. Is this something that you really want to work on? Is this something that you want to pray about? Is this someone that you want to go to the pastor for prayer? Is this someone that you want to go to a therapist for? But the most important thing is kind of actually addressing it, because that's one of the things that especially we, you know, undo, unfortunately, as Black people. I think one of our major coping skills sometimes is avoidance. If I don't look at it, if I'm not seeing it, eventually it's going to figure itself out. But sometimes just putting eyes on actually what the issue is and addressing it and making it a point to address it can make things a lot better. And therapy works whether you stay together or you don't stay together. You want to leave as whole people. So again, I'm always I'm always going to support, like, go speak to your pastor, go speak to your therapist, go speak to your psychiatrist. If you're going to do couples counseling, make sure you have your own individual counselors as well as your couples therapist. And eventually, again, it's always going to be okay in the end. Things, they just work out eventually.
So,
Thank
so
you.
first of all, let me just thank both of you for that, and let me add just a little something I got from Pastor Robbie Davis and Pastor Robin Davis as they were talking about love. We really get into that time when love is exciting, right? You just had a new baby, you love your baby. You just got a new relationship, you love that person, and the feeling of love we get really into. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves that love is a commitment. Love can be a commitment. Love can be a time when you decide you're going to be in a relationship, when you move in with that person, you decide you're going to have that child and take care of that child. A lot of relationships are challenged during the pandemic. This is a difficult time, more so than other times when love is already challenged. And so I just think sometimes we have to not depend on, I feel like it all the time. There are going to be days when you don't feel like it, when there's no space. You're living in a studio apartment and the only privacy is in the bathroom. There are going to be those times when you have to remind yourself that I made a promise to me, I made a promise to this person, I made a promise to God, and that will take you to the prayer and take you to the counseling as opposed to taking you just easily out the door. Um, I always say getting old is not for sissies. Love is not for sissies. Sometimes you got to just toughen up and you have to realize that this is a time for me to ask for help. I look, I for me, it's some music. It's some music that helps me with all of that. So, Dr. Neighbor Stevens, if there's nothing else left, could you
Well,
introduce?
actually, there is one more question in the chat that I would like
Oh, wait.
for our panelists to deal with. There's a question that's about how do you find love again when someone very dear to you, like a parent, is gone? And during this time when there's so much death and grief affecting so many of us, I think it's important to talk about that a little bit.
Amen.
So,
Dr. Jones?
Oh, you know, this one's a tough one for me because I am blessed to have both of my parents. They are actually on this call too. And I talk to my mom almost every single day. And so for me, I have always been blessed with having a good relationship with my mother and the wisdom from my dad. My dad does give good advice. And he's probably the one I have to attribute some of my fearlessness to because he made sure I was not going to quit at anything. Um, hmm. as I was going on my tangent, I can't believe, can you repeat that question for me? Because I'm starting off and then I lost it. Can you repeat the question one more time?
The question is, how do you find love again after the loss of someone that you love dearly, like a parent?
Like a parent, okay. Giving yourself time to grieve that loss. One of the things that we do again as Black people is that we have been taught to be resilient and to always keep moving and then just keep doing everything we're supposed to be doing. But we never really allow ourselves to sit in that moment and actually grieve that loss of the relationship. Pain stays if you don't acknowledge it. And so you have to actually allow yourself to be sad about that loss and then focus on the good things about that love and try to look for that love in other aspects of your life, right? And so I do have friends that have lost their mothers, one most recently. But that mother figure is still present. It may not be your actual mother, but if you've had friends for long periods of time, their mothers will reach out to you, right? You have friends that kind of have that same sort of vibe. You might have a relationship that will give you that same sort of like grounded base that your parents gave you that will make you feel less lonely and loved. And so the first thing I would recommend is allow yourself to be sad and mourn that relationship. And then the second one I would say is, what are the things that you learn from those relationships? What are the qualities that you miss? And then make sure that you can look and recognize them in the people around you. And then again, don't be afraid. And even if you are afraid, keep moving. It eventually will present itself in front of you. Unfortunately, love does not materialize out of my Samsung TV I have been looking for a long time. You do actually have to put a little effort into it. Dr. Peace?
And the only thing I would add to that is absolutely right. You have to give yourself time to grieve. There is no set time for grieving of any kind of loss, whether it's from a death, from a loss from a death or from a relationship or whatever. There is no set time to grieve. But then I would advise that person or recommend to that person to, and I believe this is what Dr. Jones was alluding to, was to get involved in the things that really give them enjoyment. Make yourself available to other people. You have to not be in a position where you isolate yourself, but you have to get out, concentrate, focus on those things that you really enjoy, because those are the things that will get you out. And from that, you'll begin to develop relationships. You'll begin to make friends, and perhaps that person, you might meet someone, of course, who our loss will never be replaced, but you can meet someone that can fill that void that you may be feeling from that person's loss. So don't isolate yourself, get out, meet people, do the things that you enjoy.
Dr. Peace, can I just chime in? I agree with that. There's nothing in isolation but negative thoughts. And to reference a biblical story, Job lost everything and was restored, right? You could not replace his family, but he did live a fulfilling life after that major loss. And so as long as you remain positive and pray, I agree that you will be restored and you can find love again.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to, even during the grieving process, which is normal, you don't have to do that by yourself and then go out and make yourself available. There are grief counselors, there are groups for certain kinds of losses. There is a lot of resource out there, and that, as somehow we have to make sure that we as African Americans understand that it's okay to share. It's okay to share your pain. It's okay to ask for help. It's really, really okay to ask for help.
Yes. I'm not a fan of secrets. I agree.
I don't see any other questions now, Dr. Walks.
There were a few that I wondered if we wanted to get to now. One had to do with adolescence, challenges of adolescence with love. Shall we share that now, or do you want to wait till a little bit later? Okay.
No, this is
So
the time.
Okay, the question is, adolescents are challenged with identity issues and psychosexual development issues, making love choices and activities difficult. How do we as parents and physicians best counsel them?
So this is, sometimes I think this is more of a generational thing. Children, they're more open-minded than we are. And when it comes to parents and children, for some people, it really is kind of a struggle of accepting how the younger generation identifies and how they identify love and how they identify themselves. And in those cases, when the kids are comfortable with who they are and their parents are not, I always kind of say, like, your baby doesn't necessarily have a problem. You have a problem with some of their choices. That's something that I want you to focus on, and talk to a therapist, talk to your friends, get your support system in place, because what you don't want to happen is that your child feels unloved and unaccepted. And what'll happen is that they feel unloved and unaccepted by you. They will go find it someplace else. And it may not be in the arms of someone who actually loves and values them. So that's in a situation where a child is actually kind of comfortable. When a child is not comfortable with themselves and they're kind of struggling with who they feel they are, and they feel that who they may be unacceptable, it's always important to let them know that if you're a good person and you have a good heart and you love the people around you and you're open and honest, that's the most important thing. And all the other stuff we can work through with mom, with dad, with grandma, with auntie, uncle, with your therapist, with your teacher. We will work on it, but you are okay with who you are, okay as you are, without changing anything about yourself. And I will help you find a support system that will reinforce that you are okay who you are. I just want you to be the best version of yourself.
Thank you. That's powerful. Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Okay.
Reverend Peace, do you have any comment underlying that?
I would say the one thing that you should not do is be judgmental or placing that person under condemnation, because they're already struggling with their identity. They're already struggling with this huge, huge problem that in actuality is society has placed that problem on them. And it's when we as parents become judgmental is when we widen the gap in our relationship with our children. And that's the last thing you want. You want your child to feel comfortable enough to come and talk to you about anything, no matter how difficult it might be for you. But that child needs assistance, that child needs support. And the first line of support should come from the parent to show that child that no matter what they're going through, that they still love them. Condemnation, being judgmental, that's one of the worst things that you can do to a child who is struggling with an issue that for some really have no control over.
Thank you. Well, that was
100%.
wonderful. Yes, I agree. Dr. Walks can kind of relate to, because I think he sees children at some point in time. It is a struggle for children. It is, they don't quite know who they are. It's important to let them know that as long as they're honest and good people, whoever they love, however they identify, it really is okay. And if you give it enough time, what happens? It's eventually going to work its way out. With parents who are struggling, it's important that you realize that you want your children here on earth with you, whether they're struggling with something or not. And I have taken care of a lot of people on my inpatient psychiatric unit who really try to take their lives because they're not allowed to have the love that they find fulfilling. And they're not allowed to be the people that they want to be. And the alternative is, in their eyes, I would rather not be here on earth than not be able to live my full life and my true life. And so I always tell parents that you would rather your baby here and you're struggling with who they are, but they're here on earth, and them not be here because they took their life because they could not find acceptance. I also kind of put in there, like, you got to choose your partner. Nobody really chimed in on who you chose your wife or your husband to be or your partner. So I need you to let your kid choose their partner, because that's who they want to live with that's who they want to live their life with, and no one told you couldn't choose yours.
Dr. Neighbor Stevens, do we have one more? Thank you, Dr. Jones. So powerful.
We have, I need to ask Dr. Jones, we had a request early on if she would give where you could find the list of the 7 types of love. If you could put that in the chat box, that would be great.
Okay, I would have to go look it up first. It's not in my thing, but I'll look it up and then I'll put it in there.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Walks, are you ready for me to bring on our last but certainly not least panelist?
I have to make one last comment on the topic that we just had, because our African American community is just amazingly diverse. And so we have a lot of young people that aren't in a situation where it's their parent that they're having the challenge with. They don't have 2 good parents. They don't have 1 good parent. And I just want to make sure that we understand that sometimes we're that person that they may run into. We may be their teacher, we may be their coach, we may be someone that they walk by every day. We may be an usher at church. You don't know who is going to be the person that is in front of them. And I just want us to be to recognize that if we're available for someone to approach, a young person to approach, maybe we can get them to someone that can help them. We can help them to find that counselor or that therapist or someone, because everyone doesn't have a mom and a dad, or a mom or a dad to be open with. So the opportunity is there for us to be that person. And now,
Without further ado, I'd like to bring on our 3rd panelist. Our 3rd panelist is someone who is no stranger on our weekly broadcast. She's just having more of a spotlight this week. I'm speaking of none other than Brenda Lee Ager. Brenda Lee Ager, who is from Lower Peachtree, Alabama, emerged as a chart-topping musical powerhouse. Her songs have been recorded by Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and Prince. She performed with Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack, Graham Nash, Ray Charles, and has recorded duets with Jerry Butler. She states that music is central to my life. My music is a reflection of the spiritual lessons I practice. It speaks of profound issues we face through our collective voice and stories of magic, vision, and love. She will be starting a Saturday Zoom workshop called Soul Sing Sessions on February 27th. We'll all be on the lookout for it. And with that, I turn it over to Ms. Brenda Lee Ager.
The minute you say that, my head starts to itch. My head itches when I get excited. The minute you go, Hello, everyone, and I'm so honored. Oh my God, I'm so honored to be here in this capacity. I just like to thank you, first of all, for having me, and Reverend Peace and Dr. Jones. It's just been wonderful hearing you both and agreeing with all that you've said, because you're in the know. I see that. Thank you. So anyway, I'm talking about this morning, our Black love, our music, and our faith. And I'd like to start about saying, do you remember when you were a little girl or a little boy playing in the yard and your head hurt, or you had a fever, or you cut your finger or something, you went running to your grandmother and you'd lay up on her chest and she would rock you. And with that rocking, you'd soon feel so much better and you'd be out playing before you forgot you had a fever. That is what music will do. It is so powerful. It's the vibration of that music that went into her prayers and her love for you. She may not have been aware of all that, but she knew she could help to heal her little grandbaby. Sometimes she'd say, now get on up here and go in the yard, play with the rest of the kids, because you forgot you were sick. I also remember one time my mother, my little brother was like 2 years old, and he had mistakenly drank kerosene instead of water. And he turned blue and just collapsed. And he was 2 years old at the time. And I called my mother, and my mother come running. She takes her baby in her arms, and she looks up and she says, Lord, show me what to do to save my child. And she started singing, I need thee every hour. Oh, precious Lord. She grabbed a goop of lard in her hand and stuffed it down my brother's throat. And he started bringing up that kerosene in that lard. And there was no doctors around, and that her music, her prayer, her faith saved my brother's life. And from as a child, I just knew what music will do. I loved singing. At 3 years old, I said I was going to sing. Even though I was in a cotton picking farm, I knew I would sing and travel the world and making people happy with what I do. Because music is a vibration. It's energy. I can't find my notes here, so I'm going to, it vibrates with music and sound. Musicians tune their instrument to the vibrations of the universe. Doctors put a stethoscope to your heart to feel the rhythm of your heart. And that heart had better go da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. It better not go da-dum. I think I can. Da-dum. I wish I can. No, you better have that rhythm. So everything in the universe has rhythm. And if you listen or meditate quietly in the wee hours of the morning, you can actually hear the tone of the universe. You hear high pitch. It's above my head. I can't do that high. But the universe is always singing. God is always singing in and as us and everything that vibrates. When you were teenagers, first time you fell in love, I bet you can remember the song you heard. It was one particular or two particular songs. Me, I fell in love every week, so it was a lot of songs. But some of the songs, I remember there's this boy I loved. He paid me no attention. So I was doing Stevie Wonder. Hey, love, may I have a word with you? But it was the music, the faith of our loved ones and the music. When we went to church, that's where we really, really got that inner spirit, and it gave us the magic of the words and the lyrics, and we got the preacher ready to speak. Even Dr. King, when he would speak, he would always have Mahalia or Aretha or someone to speak, to sing before he came to that pulpit, because it opens up a valve to where a spirit gets to really be itself in your voice. So yes, singing, music, and it's like Dr. Waltz, in the 70s, man, it was music. I'm telling you, I fell in love with the music. And when you hear someone, sometimes they'll sing what you want to say to someone, a song. Like Stevie would do something like music, you are the sunshine of my life. Hey, my daddy wouldn't say that to my mother, but he would play the song, and the song spoke for him. So it's just the music that comes alive, and it lives within each of us. I teach little children. I want to talk about this now, because I sing all the time, but I don't talk that well. I talk a lot, but I don't talk in this platform. But if somebody said, girl, you should do this, I'm going to be doing it from now on. But I do go into schools and I teach children about self-love, because for me, that is the best thing I can show children. And I can show them that through music. It pains my heart to see a young Black mother maybe crossing the street or in a store, and her child is 6 feet behind her, and she says, "Bring your ass on, come on." It wears me down, it breaks my heart. So I go into the school system and I teach children, first and second graders, how beautiful they are. They came from God, they're wonderful. And if I teach them to love themselves, they'll in turn teach their mother. And pretty soon the whole family will be singing, "I love myself." So my thing with music and love is it's my life. The joy that comes from sharing your heart space through music, especially if it can be of service to mankind. That has been for 60 some years my thing. And I just want to say that music is my life and my life is music. And if it's there to help someone, I'm doing my job. And if there's any questions, I mean, I got all day, but I know you don't. So if there's any questions, you can ask me anything.
Before we get to the questions, because I'm a doctor, I'm supposed to be a scientist and be a researcher. So I looked you up, and I just want to share a couple of things that resonated with me about what Brenda Lee Eager has done. People sing and people make great music. And when I think about you, I'm always going to think about take your gift where you are. Take your gift where you are. Because I don't know if a lot of us know that you actually traveled with Reverend Jesse Jackson as he was going around the country helping get people elected.
Yes.
That whole, and singing as a part of that effort. You talked about taking your music into teaching children about self-esteem. And I just want to pause for a minute and say, if anybody wants a real treat, look up on YouTube, Brenda Lee Eager and Jerry Butler singing on Soul Train. singing Close to You. If you want to hear an amazing voice and see an amazing impact, that impacted me. But I think this other notion of you being able to take your gift and take it, noticing the mom who was yelling at her kid and then taking your gift into the school, realizing during the civil rights movement that there was an opportunity to leverage music in that particular work. It's just a huge thing. So I'm sorry, that just had to come out of me. We can go back to the regular scheduled program.
Well, Marvin Gaye was a good friend of mine, and he told me, which I say on my stage shows all the time, he says, "Brenda, it is the duty of the artist to raise the consciousness of the people." And that was 35 years ago, and I took that to heart. If I cannot inspire you, if I cannot lift your vibration, if I can't make you feel better about you, I'm not doing my job. So yes, I'm here to love through music, because for me, it's all one. That vibration of love and God and music is one thing to me.
Amen. Amen. So Dr. Neighbor Stevens or Michelle, did we have questions or comments? I know we have a lot of comments in the chat, but I see them coming up. If you can share some of what we got.
Because we're all going to get song in a minute.
So there is a question here. It says, music influences our mood. Is there a particular genre of music or songs you can recommend to inspire an uplifting and or healing mood?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's great music. I believe in positive music that inspires and make you feel good. That can be meditation music. That can be the moment I wake up. It could be some Aretha Franklin. It could be some Mahalia Jackson. It could be a new young girl named Her. But music that really makes you settle in and just kind of be with yourself. Meditation music is beautiful, but so is other beautiful music. there's music also that agitates the system, and I know you know what kind of music I'm talking about. You want music that builds you up and then lets you rest. You want to rest in the music. Or you want to dance, and whatever makes you feel good though, because I love to dance to the music. I was so mad the other night, I got up, I was by myself, and I put on some James Brown, 2:00 in the morning. I was up with the YouTube and just James Brown it down. But whatever makes you feel good, but remember that agitation is not good for the cells of your body. You want to relax the cell or make them feel good, because those peptides and those cells in your body, they respond to your emotions. So let's put on music that make you feel good and just look for good, easy listening. Your soul will know when it's good for you.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much. There's a nice statement I want to read here in the chat room as well. It says, music is the closest thing we have to a time machine. You can hear a song and it can immediately take you back in time to a certain moments in your life when you heard it. And what a gift. What a gift that is.
What a gift.
We're time travelers.
Yeah. Now, I have a song before this is over. I want everybody to sing. So right where you are, this is what I teach my kids. I wrote this song over 20 years ago. I wrote it for my grandchildren. And if everybody's ready to get their voice together now, all you have to do is repeat after me. But my little first and second graders, when they sing this song, they put their hands on their hips because they feel the power of words and music. So let me know if you're ready. Is everybody ready? We're ready, Michelle? You have to sing it too.
To outperform first graders.
Everybody ready? Get your chops up. Take a breath. You'll repeat after me. I just love being me.
I just
love being me.
Being me.
Yes, sirree.
Yes, sirree.
There ain't nobody else.
There ain't nobody else.
I'd rather be.
I'd rather be.
Rather be.
From the top of my head.
From the top of my head.
To the sole of my feet.
To the sole of my feet.
I just love. The end. Here comes the big finish.
The end. Because when you know who you are, that shining star, everybody else will know. And it doesn't come from selfishness, it comes from self-fulfillment.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Brenda.
My honor.
I'd like to apologize to the entire group for not muting myself before I started singing. That was wonderful. Just wonderful. I do have one serious question for you, and this as accomplished and really truly as accomplished a songwriter as you are, Miss Eager, I'm always into the lyrics and think that I listen carefully to the lyrics, and I have a bone to pick with you. One of my favorite songs is a song called Ain't Understanding Mellow. And it took me a couple of decades to understand that that was a song about two people breaking up.
Yes, it was.
I was thinking it was about a song about people getting together. Why'd y'all do that?
There were people that told me, I got married to your song. I had a baby with your song. I mean, walking down the aisle. But the song was so full of love and understanding.
Yes.
It was two people breaking up, but they were breaking up without animosity. They were breaking up without anger. They decided to go their separate ways, but still, you happened to call on me. There's still that friendship that remained. And I think if everybody could do that or just half the world do that, we'd have a better understanding about what love is, because it's not about anger, you know, and it's not about fear. God is love. So yeah, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna confess something right here. I was 21 years old and I didn't know what it meant either. Jerry just called me and said, learn this song. We're going in the studio in 2 days and you got to learn it. So I was just learning the song. And wow, took me a while. I'm like, that's what that song is. I got a gold record. Wow, but that's what that song was. But let me just say something about lyrical. The three components, and I teach this in my songwriting class. Three components of songs. And that's your music, your lyric, and your melody. Now you got a lot of little kids inside of that makes up the song, but those three components. And telling a story. When, like a snowball rolling down the side of a snow-covered hill, it's growing. I heard that song when I was in the 9th grade. And I told my mother, Smokey Robinson is painting, he's painting pictures. I must paint pictures like that. It's a 3-minute story where you color and paint pictures and use mental imagery so people not only hear the song, they see the song, then they feel the song, and that song becomes impassioned in your soul forever. So music is his healing. Music is the healing force of the world. We tell it all in our songs, man. We tell it all.
Yep.
So I'm gonna kick this back to Dr. Naybert Stevens because I'm just having way too much fun for a Sunday afternoon. But I just want to say that the work that we all do within the healing profession, and I say we all do, is truly valuable. And what Ms. Eager is sharing with us today, I don't know if everyone understands the value of music and maybe even the study of music therapy. Music is absolutely a recognized form of therapy and a form of help. So I just want to thank Dr. Jones had to jump off to go to another meeting. What she shared with us was just fantastic and wonderful. Reverend Peace says, nothing wrong with a little church on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Pastor. And Ms. Eager, just love what you bring and what you brought to so many of us for so long. It's just amazing. So just thank you. The impact that you've had is just tremendous, and that you're still having. Dr. Naybert Stevens, I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Walks. I'm sitting here enjoying myself as well. I want to share with our audience a little taste of what's coming up next week. Next week, we are going to have Dr. Dial Hewlett and Dr. Georges Benjamin, who will be chatting with us about as I say every week, this something new every week. So we've got new vaccines on the horizon. We've got new recommendations, and we got new controversies, of course. So we're going to be chatting about some of that next week. With that, I think it brings us to our song of affirmation. Are you ready, Ms. Eager?
Oh, okay, yes, I'm always ready. I didn't know, but yes, I'm ready. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome And with that, we know that the love of God surrounds us. We're immersed in this wonderful ocean of love of God. We cannot be separated from it. It is in us as us. So we go forth this week, get those vaccines, and taking care of one another. God bless you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for everyone on this call. Thank you, Dr. Waltz. Thank you, Dr. Barbara. I love you. Thank you, Reverend Peace. Thank you, Michelle Simmons. Happy birthday, my darling. Thank you, everybody.
God bless you.
Thank you. And with that, we wish you all a wonderful, safe week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.